Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Patrick Dodd, and the topic today is innovative team collaboration for effective, fair group work. First, I'll acknowledge the benefits of group assignments, why they are valued by employers, and how to remedy the challenges presented by group assessments. Next, we'll join with our Chief Design Technologist, Dr. Peter Mellalieu, to address the common concerns that many of you experience with teammate peer assessment. So the problem that universities have is with group assignments, and typically that's a result of design, management, and assessment of group assignments. Typically what happens is that lecturers will issue a group assignment. They'll let students form their own teams. They'll say to the students, listen, if you have any problems, let us know, and that typically those problems don't come up until the end of the semester. And then they give the same mark to every student on the team, regardless of whether or not those students actually participated in the project. The result of that is that it's really hard from an academic quality perspective to determine whether or not all of the students in a team met those learning outcomes. And quite often you'll get students who did very little, if anything, on a team project that will actually pass the course because they were on a high-performing team. And that's really unfortunate. The other issue is that because the same mark is given to every student on the team, this social loafing will occur. And social loafing, if I know that I'm on a team of high-performing students, and maybe I just have a lot on, I can say, well, I'm not going to do as much as I probably could because the other team members will lift me up. The rest of those team members really feel a lot of animosity towards that. And you can see that if you type group project or group assignment meme into Google, you'll find lots of different memes that characterize this problem. More than that, universities are really missing a trick. There's an organization called NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And they survey businesses every year. And one of the questions that they ask is, what is the most valuable attribute or those valuable attributes that you're looking for in a recent graduate? This past year, working in teams was number one, with 81% of employers or businesses saying that is the most important attribute. You can't get that managing that teamwork without a process in place. And so that's the problem that we have. And we have, fortunately, Peter and I have developed a solution for that. And that solution is teammate peer assessment. And Pete, maybe you'd like to tell us about teammate peer assessment.
Okay, so there's peer assessment and there's teammate peer assessment, and I want to distinguish between the two. Teammate peer assessment is where the members of a team are rating the contributions of each other to the output of that team and to the leadership and teamwork processes. So that's a crucial distinction. They're measuring leadership, teamwork processes, and contributions to the output. In our case, we measure against 10 attributes, but we'll talk about that later. So that's teamwork peer assessment.
So we started out and we had a fairly rudimentary system at the outset that did teammate peer assessment. But the big problem, Pete, is that even if you use the methodology, if you employ the methodology, you really need to have a platform, a robust peer assessment platform that supports and facilitates the process, correct?
Yeah. So the process is a bit long-winded. There's at least kind of 5 steps to the process. You've got to run a survey. Well, you can do that easily with paper or a Google form or various survey platforms. Then you've got to analyze the results based around each each team. Then you've got to combine two numbers together. The peer assessment grade that a student gets, the relative rank in their team, you've got to combine that with the team result. That's the mark that the teacher awards to the outputs of the team. A single grade the teacher awards to perhaps a presentation, a project report, something like that. So there's a bit of number crunching there. So those are, and then you've got to feedback the results to the students so that they can learn from the perhaps formative peer assessment that you've done. So those are the essential elements that you need. But on top of that, you've got to have some degree of management, some administration that signals which individuals have not yet submitted the survey, and you've got to have a way of reminding them. You need to decide what's the minimum number from a team before you'll actually start to calculate and release grades. Until you've got that minimum number, then you can really, it's only fair to award the team results until you've got those. So the various, what we call active warnings to alert the teacher to how well the administration is going and whether it's fair and valid.
So it sounds like, Pete, that really, if you have any class size at all, doing something like this without a proper system in place, a proper platform in place, could be an administrative nightmare.
Yeah. I began my journey with peer assessment, peer feedback with about 15, 20 students in the class, and that was all done on paper. But as soon as you get to 25, you need some kind of digital platform to help you. And as soon as you're getting into 50, 100, 800, 1,000, 2,000 students, you need some robust platform that integrates very well with the other workflows and platforms that you use, such as a learning management system.
Sure. So Pete, these peer assessment platforms, they're not new. We have some competitors for sure. What do you think? What are those aspects of PeerAssess Pro do you think really set us apart? That are really outstanding, that none of the competition is really doing, and yet provides a service that's absolutely critical?
Yeah. So I hinted at this term, active warnings. A key thing that you're wanting to do is not just figure out who's submitted the survey and who's not, but you also want to identify at-risk individuals, at-risk teams, and that's perhaps the most crucial thing you want to identify. You want early warning of those at-risk teams and individuals so that you can proactively intervene, confront those individuals. And so we have a mechanism that's standardized across various active warnings to deal with that sort of issue. So active warnings for students who are being rated the lowest amongst their peers, those students that are going to be getting the lowest results or grades in the class. But we also check on something called psychological safety. We ask the students to self-report whether they feel safe and confident, or whether they feel challenged and uncomfortable about giving honest feedback to their team members. And we test that at the individual level, and we test it at the team level. If you've got a team which is self-reporting as lacking confidence in giving feedback and confronting others, offering ideas, then we know that's a problem.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Sure.
Right. Psychological safety is a term, it's a concept that I think bears further discussion. Psychological safety is really important if you're going to have high-performing teams. Google has done a lot of research around team performance and what what drives or what drives teams and the different attributes that comprise high performing teams. What they found in their Project Aristotle was that psychological safety was the key attribute for high performing teams. Without it, the teams didn't have the success that the other teams had. So we're not suggesting that all of your teams are going to be high performing just because there's psychological safety. However, what we are suggesting is that you need to have psychological safety if your team is going to be high performing. That is for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
One of the other things that I'd like to have you talk about is we get this question a lot from academics and from learning and teaching advisors. How valid and reliable is teammate peer assessment, and how do you check for it?
We test for the validity of the peer feedback results that our students are producing in a number of ways. We test for unreliable ratings, or what we call untrustworthy ratings. So we look to see whether there has been a rating which is unexceptionally is high or low compared with the ratings of others in the team. And we do a kind of drop and swap mechanism to test for that. We do a more sophisticated statistical analysis to see the extent to which members of the team are all consistently rating the same person high and other people low and other people medium. And this is using a statistical technique called concordance. We can test that for statistical significance. So when a team agrees statistically that they're rating everybody high, medium, and low, then we can say that there's a valid and fair grade awarded to people based on the peer assessment contribution.
And if there's not that team agreement, what happens?
So what should happen then is that the teacher should award the team result to the whole team. It's not fair and valid to award a peer assessed contribution because it's challengeable. So Patrick, how about you give us a summary of where we come from and the key points before we move on to discuss the questions, the issues, the concerns that our audience have presented to us today.
Sure, thanks, Pete. We talked about the problem first, the problem being group projects and the proliferation of group projects and them being mismanaged across entire universities, faculties, departments, etc., in a haphazard approach in the way that they're designed, managed, and assessed. We have a solution for that. That solution is teammate peer assessment. However, teammate peer assessment, although it's a great methodology, really requires a robust platform to support that. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting lecturers' time. The other thing that we wanted to mention was those aspects of PeerAssess Pro that make it unique in the marketplace today and really special. Those really stem from, I think, right at the outset, the active warnings. Those active warnings can be as simple as identifying students that have yet to participate in a survey and sending them automated communication. It can be as profound as measuring psychological safety, or identifying other at-risk or at-risk teams and student characteristics. Those can be from unfair and untrustworthy ratings that we measure using concordance to ensure reliability and validity. And all of this under the umbrella of an LMS integrated system, which means that a lecturer, once installed, can do everything from within the LMS. That means using the LMS to form your teams, to launch the actual survey. Students participate in that within the LMS to participate in the survey. They receive the results in the LMS survey. And most importantly, there is no sensitive student data, for example, like student IDs, that actually leave the university ecosystem. So that there's really tight security around that as well. So that's where we are.
Right, thanks, Patrick, and we're both very proud to present what we have today. But now we're going to address more general issues to do with teammate peer assessment, teammate peer feedback that have come through to us.
Thank you. Question time. We have some questions submitted to us. So let's get straight in and address your burning issues concerning teammate peer assessment. Right, our first question. How do I defend the grades I have awarded in response to pushback from students who argue they have been unfairly assessed? This is an excellent question. So it all comes down to a couple of things. First is training. You need to make sure that you train your students in how they're going to assess. So we have a rubric that's available. That's the same rubric. It's the same set of questions that we have in our survey. So we've got a rubric that's available on our website, and we strongly suggest that you go through that rubric with the students so that they can start to distinguish the behaviors between the novice level, the practitioner level, and the expert level. Once you're sure that students can discern those behaviors between the levels, then I think that you're ready to go with the survey. The second important thing is that we recommend that you do a formative peer assessment halfway through the group assessment. This will give you an opportunity for students to see and receive that feedback that they get from their peers, and for you to have courageous conversations so that they have an understanding of what they've done well and what they need to improve upon. And then you can, with Peer Assess Pro, you can arbitrarily put in a mark to say, a grade to say, if your team if this were a summative assessment and your team received an 80, for example, this would be your individual score, so that they can see just how their performance is going to equate to an individual grade. So those are two important things. And the second is with Peer Assess Pro that you can demonstrate validity and reliability using our concordance analysis, so that you can show them that all of the team members actually agreed with one another on who performed the best, second best, third best, etc. So with all of that, you should be able to very confidently say to the student that not only is the score going to stand, but it's fair and reliable.
So a question for me: how do I confront dysfunctional teams early in their work? How do I intervene to get the teams on track for success? And what do we mean by a dysfunctional team? Let's look first at how we identify a dysfunctional team. There are several symptoms of dysfunctional teams. First, a team may, one or more members of the team may report that they feel unsafe, about giving their ideas to the team, that they feel unconfident about giving constructive feedback to other members of the team. So in Peer Assess Pro, we have a question based around the idea of psychological safety that helps members of the team identify their confidence in being safe or unsafe in terms of their teamwork. The second factor we want to look at is the degree to which team members agree with the ratings that they give each other. And we can measure the extent to which teammates agree on the relative rankings they're giving to each other. There's a statistical measure called concordance that we use to determine this. And what we're looking for is symptoms of teams where there is a low degree of agreement. A low concordance is the technical term for that. So there's another symptom of a dysfunctional team, that they fail to agree who the high performers are and the low performers are. Another symptom of a dysfunctional team is where they basically present poor rating behavior or untrustworthy rating behavior. This is where they might game the system and attempt to give everybody the same peer assessment grade for their contribution. One final factor is where most of the members of the team are agreeing on who the expert performers are and the poor performers are, and the novice performers. But there are outlier performers, or at least outlier raters, where they are giving an untrustworthy rating unfairly high or unfairly low, and it stands out like a sore thumb compared with the other ratings of members of the team. So these are all measures of a dysfunctional team, or members, or some members of the team are dysfunctional. So how do we confront those dysfunctional teams? So first you've got to detect these symptoms. In Peer Assess Pro, the way we respond to it is that we have pro forma messages which are prepared for the teacher, and the teacher can send these pro forma messages out to the specific members of the team, or all the team members, and it gives them a variety of options to address the issue that has been raised. So one of the ratings is that one of the aspects is that the students know that you have noticed this factor, and maybe there's an invitation to come and speak with the teacher about the issue and discuss it. The recommended way is that the team addresses the issue themselves. We invite the teams to engage in what we call courageous conversation. We get them to discuss and agree what are the criteria for expert performance, for average or nominal performance, and novice or low performance. Let them discuss what are the factors, the behaviours which meet those different criteria, and invite the team to update the ratings that they've given to each other.
Next question. How do I enable students to provide assertive and constructive feedback safely to their teammates when they observe dysfunctional behavior, such as free riders, blockers, dominators, and aggressors? Right, this is very important, because without training, you could have very disastrous results from this feedback, from this peer assessment event. Students, well, we all have difficulty giving and receiving feedback. This is something that humans are just not equipped to do with straight out of the box. It's easy for a teacher to give a student feedback, primarily because that's expected, right? And that feedback usually is around, it's performative based. We're asking students to give each other feedback, peers, and that is just not a natural thing for students to do. And quite often, students are reluctant to provide honest feedback, as well as incapable of receiving that feedback. So it's important that we give them proper structure. And the methodology that we use to give and receive feedback, there's some training involved, is called BET and BEAR. So the BET, B-E-T, stands for behavior, effect, and thank you. What you're asking students to do, and this is around the positive feedback, and that is identify the behavior that they'd like to compliment, and then address the effect that that behavior has had on the team, and finish it with thank you. So behavior, effect, thank you. So I could say, Peter, your leadership was absolutely outstanding. And because of that, our team was able to really come together and gel nicely and perform within the time frame expected and deliver up to our capabilities. Thank you. So that's the BET model. We also then, for constructive feedback, use the BEAR model, which is the behavior, the effect the behavior has, an alternative to that behavior, and the result. And so we have all of this available to you in a video series that you can share with your students. We highly recommend that you practice this before you actually launch a peer assessment activity, so that they're able to, one, provide constructive feedback using this framework, and then expect that they're going to get this feedback and to anticipate that, and then to have those courageous conversations afterwards.
So here's a question: what is a reliable and valid methodology to determine individual grades from a group score? So there are various mathematical ways of combining the teacher awarded group result, or team result as we call it, with the peer assessed contribution, which is determined from the teammate peer assessment. The Peer Assess Pro platform provides various mathematical methods for doing this combination, this calculation, and we explore we present on our website the advantages and disadvantages of each of the method. In the literature, there are various discussions on methods which could be used. The most often used is that the person rated best in the team gets the team result as awarded by the teacher, and everybody else gets scaled down from that team result in proportion to the peer assessed contribution grade. We advocate something called normalized personal result, where we actually award a mark above the team result for the exceptional performers and a lower mark for those that fall at average or lower performance. And we argue for that because the grade for a group work is measuring two things. It's measuring the delivery of the outputs, but it's also measuring the learning outcomes associated with teamwork, leadership, and teamwork processes. So that's where we believe that there should be an additional reward for those that have contributed above average to the team. But there are some other methods that we use as well. In the literature, another aspect is considered. Should you base the peer assessment just on one factor, or on a weighted sum or a sum of several factors? And in Peer Assess Pro, we have the option to base it on just a single factor. And again, the literature recommends that single factor, that summative feedback about what a team member has contributed, that question should be asked towards the end of the survey, and we apply that principle. There's another aspect of this, which is to do with how do you deal with untrustworthy ratings, those that appear to be biased in some way in that they are well out of the range of what the rest of the team is awarding. They may be bullying type grades, or they might be favoritism type grades. So this suggests the use of the median in terms of calculating results rather than arithmetic means, and this is an approach that we are adopting in our approach in PeerAssess Pro as one of the optional methods for calculating grades. The second aspect of assuring a valid and reliable method is that the peer assessment that you've done does not present symptoms of invalid or unreliable ratings. So you're looking out for and addressing symptoms that people have been evading their responsibility to rate fairly. You're looking for symptoms that the teams fail to agree on the relative rankings of the members of their teams. And what you're seeking to do is to ensure that your teams are well trained, or if they do persist in presenting these behaviours, that you respond and confront them and require them to undertake a courageous conversation or discuss with you what is going on. So by chipping away these outlier or symptomatic measures of dysfunctional teams, you will assure more strongly the reliability and validity of your teammate peer assessment. Can students game a peer assessment activity to improve their individual grades? My response is yes, they can try, but we will know who they are and we can address those issues. Perhaps the most obvious gaming that students try is that they evade the responsibility to rate fairly. One thing is that they rate everybody high. The other gaming they might try is rating themselves high and everybody else low. Now, in both of those circumstances, a decent peer assessment platform will surface those kinds of behaviours. For example, in PeerAssess Pro, if everybody rates everybody high, then all that's going to happen is that there is no relative ranking within the team. Everyone's ranked the same, and with the mathematical methods that we use to determine a contribution-based grade combined with the teacher's grade, the result will be the students just get the teacher awarded personal result, and that happens automatically because of the mathematics that's deployed. The other aspect is where students rate themselves high and everybody else low. It's generally accepted that self-assessments in peer assessment are not included in the calculation of a peer assessed score or peer assessed contribution. So it's a pointless activity. What many peer assessment platforms do is they calculate a ratio of the peer assessed score and the self-assessed score, and you surface those people who have a mismatch, those students who are overconfident compared with what their team members think, or underconfident compared with what their team members think. And this is the symptom of a mismatch is raised to the teacher, and again through, for example, the Peer Assessment Pro platform, there's a pre-paired pro forma message which can be delivered to the student saying you are overconfident in what you think you are compared with what your teammates think. You there are some benefits in having a more realistic appraisal of your performance. Have a look at these articles on our knowledge base.
That concludes our session today. I'd like to thank you for your time and participation. We invite you to book in an experiential learning demo personalized for your university faculty to see the full PureAssess Pro experience and receive our special sign-up offer. The link is in the description. We'll also send you a follow-up email with our 7-step formula ebook, so check your inbox. If you have more questions about PureAssess Pro, please email us and visit our website at pureassesspro.com. Finally, please share this information with others who would benefit from innovative strategies for effective group work. We'll also let you know when we have our next event. And remember, book in that PureAssess Pro demo today.